Hello everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I still got to figure out when I started saying that. I don't remember. I think it was probably like 15 episodes ago at this point. Don't worry, I'm not as tired as I look, or I'm not as deprived of sleep as I look. If anything, I got too much sleep. And also at the top I got these, real bright monitors shining in my face. Makes me look even more tired. Don't worry, I can assure you I'm in good health. I only say that because I looked at my own face, I was like, okay, enough making that face. But anyway, another week, another Mondays with Mrhappy. Just want to do a few quick little announcements here at the beginning. So, today while you're watching this, there's going to be an unboxing video and a review video, or sort of review video, on the Alienware Steam Machine. It's an Alienware Steam Machine first look where Dell sent me a unit and I reviewed it. It's a pretty fun video to make, and I have some more of the Steam Machine coming later, specifically playing games with the Steam controller that aren't designed to be played with controller. The one I picked, I kind of want to play a full game of the game that I picked for the review. Well, the second game that I picked for the review. I'm also going to be doing a special where for at least a couple of hours of my stream, I'm going to be doing a demo of the Alienware Steam Machine. We're going to actually play some different games on it. On top of that, I'm going to give away 4 copies of Fallout 4 on Steam, and going to give away a Valve game key, which will give you access to every Steam game, or I'm sorry, every Valve game. If it was every Steam game, oh man, that thing would be worth millions. Or like, depending on like a sale day, like $5. Anyway, so a Valve game key where it gives you every Valve game, past, present, and future. So yes, if Half-Life 3 eventually does come out, you'll own it if you're the one lucky winner of this key. I'm looking forward to it. It worked really well with my Elgato, just plugged and play. So it was, it's going to be a nice little thing to share with the stream tomorrow. Also this Saturday, Extra Life, November 7th, I am going to be streaming a minimum of 16 hours that day. We're going to do 4 hours of Final Fantasy XIV. We're going to do 4 hours of Guild Wars 2. We're going to do 4 hours of... See, this is the problem. I guess maybe I shouldn't have told you guys because I hadn't actually finished the schedule. We'll have 8 hours of other games, most likely MMOs somewhere along those lines. I believe Devilian will be live. Blade and Soul will not be live. But I have a few other ones in my repertoire of games that I can play. So don't worry, just come by. We're going to be gaming all day trying to raise 10 bones. That's $10,000 for the Children's Specialized Hospitals of New Jersey. I'm going to replace my donate button at the bottom with that, and hopefully we can hit a massive goal for that stream. We hit 5,000 last year, and hopefully we can hit that. Also, November 10th, 3.1 day, be at my stream as well. We are having a giant event with lots of giveaways along with streaming patch 3.1 all day. So I'm expecting it's going to be a killer week, a killer month, because we have other events coming later that I'm not going to mention just yet. But now that I've done that pretty long opening where I explained to you all the awesome things that are going to be going on the next, couple of weeks or so, I say we actually get into some Q&A. Alright, so the first question for the week, my question for week 64. From now on, I'll stop counting and just ask my question. A high five with Soken aside, can basically everything or everyone in Eorzea become a Primal? Because only if you believe in it hard enough to appear. I don't think it's that simple. I think that any sort of belief can manifest itself into a Primal if enough people believe in it and feed it enough ether. That being said, I don't think everyone can become a Primal. I think that's something that's pretty specific to Iceheart. Maybe the Warrior of Light or Darkness could technically manifest into their own Primals. And on top of that, of course, Louis Swabbit, he was a pretty special case. He was blessed by the 12 themselves. So, sort of, but only partially. Any belief, but not any person is my ultimate answer. Next question. Hey, Happy, take a luck boost drop rate reduction. Wait, drop rate reduction? That's a bad thing. You mean drop rate increase, I hope. Do you think there should be more noticeable drinking and eating animations, or at least the sounds of the actions? Be a nice little touch. It adds a bit more believability than just, I'm done. Also, for a casual player, is crafting more profitable when you do it to save your own gear costs than making additional gear glamour prisms, or is it about selling consumables? Selling consumables, selling endgame gear, and also using the markets. One big way to make money is to sell items that are used in the market of people leveling up. If you know an item is something that is needed a lot while leveling up, it usually sells for a pretty penny. And that's an easy way to make money while you're leveling up. If you needed it to level up that bad, making it and just being self-sufficient should save you and make you a lot of money during the leveling process. That's what Ash always told me. It's like, when you level all your crafters, if you level them all side by side and you do it correctly, you should be making money while you're leveling, not losing money. I haven't done that, but I'm kind of just one of those people that buys all the items, like, yeah, I'll do all the hand-ins, woohoo, it's easy. And then I tell other people, yeah, leveling crafting's easy. No, it's because I got money. I got that dollar. But anyway, it's more about the selling of, being a part of certain markets. That's where the real profit is. All right, next question. Ahoy, mate. Question for week 64. So have some nice cockatrice meatballs. What kind of drop rates do you see for the new 210 gear in 3.1? From hard mode, I'm going to assume it's probably about a 10% drop rate. From other difficulties, if it's even possible to get a gold chest, I imagine it'll be closer to 5%. And that's on, we're talking about on NMs. I think on HNMs, like the big boss type enemies like Brachiosaur, you should be guaranteed at least, a gold chest. Like, it would be really strange if you weren't. I have a feeling on the higher difficulties, though, you'll see more gold chests, and you'll also see a higher drop rate on the lower ranked enemies. By the way, I can help you with Debt Monk for your level. Debt Monk, your level. Oh no, my monk leveling is not a problem. Like, it's 56.5, and I haven't touched, like, really leveling it. That's with a couple of roulettes a day. So don't worry, I'm fine with that. I ain't got no issues. Alright, so we had a super long post, and the person said I could read through the entire thing before doing a post on it. So it's a follow-up to last week where there was the question about the we wants, there was a question about, the gates with content, the attunements with content. So I'm just going to scroll down to the specific questions themselves, and we can just answer those. So the bolded print here. So do you think having Ravana Extreme, having to beat Ravana Extreme to get into Alexander Savage overall would be the best, since hard mode's now the story mode over the game? So I've been having this discussion kind of all week since last Mondays with Mrhappy about attunements and if I think they're a good or bad thing. And like I said in the last one, I think they're good in moderation. I think that making Ravana a minimum check for people to get into Savage is an acceptable thing to do, because let's be honest, if you couldn't beat Ravana, hopping into a static for Savage Alexander, it's a lot harder. And I know that then makes another bar for people to get accepted into raid groups, and the bar is already pretty annoying to deal with right now. It comes a lot down to who you know and how many people you know. I just think that it was nice back in A Realm Reborn where you had to beat Titan Hard Mode to get into Coil. Granted, Titan Hard Mode was still a lot easier than Coil, but people still enjoyed that sort of climbing. It also made the raid tiers feel longer than they actually were for some people, which kept people going at it and trying to progress, and it encouraged people to actually use things like the Party Finder. Now, I think that the biggest mistake in this case was that Ravana Extreme wasn't available in the Duty Finder. So your only gate would have been Ravana Extreme in the Party Finder, which most of the time people only want, experienced players. And I say that because a lot of the people making those groups aren't necessarily experienced players. They're just trying to get that easy win. But I think if that had been the case, if Ravana Extreme had been available in the Duty Finder right from the get-go, and then also in the Party Finder, I think then it would have made sense to make it a lock behind Savage. I think it's a little bit too late to go down that path now to eventually make like Thordan required, because they're doing it, they're even removing Bismarck from the Ravana requirement. So why even have the Ravana requirement for Alexander Savage? I would like more pieces of content in the game to prepare people for the difficulty that is Savage Alexander. I'm just questioning if that's to be done by adding more bosses, making the difficulty scale more consistent, even if Alexander 4 Savage was the same difficulty, but it had scaled up in a proper way. 1 to 2 was a decent jump. 2 to 3 was a decent jump. Not 1 and 2 were and then 2 to 3 was just this massive jump, because it didn't properly prepare people to be ready for those more difficult fights. I think we could benefit from some light linear progression along those lines in the form. It almost feels like an attunement, but not really. Oh, well, not really. It is. That's what an attunement is. It's doing something else to qualify for another piece of content. The second question was, do you think that a lock where that static needs to go through extreme mode primal or get in a raid like Coil Alexander, would that help or hurt the game? Oh, well, I guess I just answered that. I think it would help the skill base of the players, and I think a lot of it still has to do with when 2.0 came out, there wasn't like a great deal of competition when it came to World First. That being said, players were still figuring things out, and it took a few months down the line before a lot of players emerged as, with a greater deal of knowledge. I think we need more fights in the game for people to actually learn how to, play their jobs properly, learn their rotations. And I would like something to encourage that right when you hit level 60. And I think that maybe making extreme modes more mandatory, but including them in the Duty Finder right off the get-go, might be a better option of properly preparing people for it. And then the final bolded part right here is, do you think that maybe if for 2 weeks after stuff like Void Arc and Singularity Reactor Extreme come out, that they gated and locked it to players who have done all the content except for Savage Mode Alexander is a fair way to let some players get a head start on things fair, unfair? I don't think that's to me, that's meaningless. Like, Void Arc is easier, probably going to be easier than Ravana Extreme, realistically. Like, you probably can face roll it and get through it in an okay fashion. Singularity Reactor Extreme, on the other hand, that's something that, well, people are going to struggle with right off the bat. That may make more sense to have to beat Ravana Extreme to get to Singularity Reactor Extreme. But by lowering the gate, it also kind of makes it so that you can get there right away and sort of practice it. It's a mixed bag, man. There's pros and cons to both sides of it. So Void Arc, no, I think that's meaningless to lock Void Arc, because that's just going to make my queue times complete shit. It's going to make a lot of people's queue times complete shit, and that's all it's going to accomplish. Everyone's going to do it on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all the people already did it aren't going to go back in, as opposed to people who all had time on Tuesday, because those are the people who have beaten Ravana Extreme and all that other stuff. So overall, I think we could do with some light gates when it comes to locking content, but nothing major. No stupid long attunements like the vanilla WoW attunements. Just these light, hey, can you beat this fight? Cool, now move on to the next fight. That's kind of how it is with an Alexander Savage. Leading up to it would probably help a little bit as well. Next question. Hey, Happy, has some Fruity Pebbles. I like Cocoa Pebbles, but I'll accept. Do you think Red Script Crafter gear will become obsolete by a new set in 3.2, or will they slowly add new pieces over the patch like 2.x to not waste time or gil those that have full sets? How long do you think 3.1 will keep people occupied? About 2 weeks if people start complaining about lack of content again. Okay, so for the first question, I think that what they're going to do for gathering gear is completely replace the old set. I think for crafting gear, they're going to implement a new set that meets the maximum stat requirements of the melded gear, and then add another new set that you can meld on top of that. I also don't think it'll be necessarily required to do any of the new sets, but it is a curious thing because they can't treat it exactly the way they treat Tombstone gear, where it just jumps the item level every 2 patch. That would be pretty ridiculous unless the red script system was maybe changed a little bit. And honestly, not even just with the gear, it's honestly with what you actually do with red scripts. It's too broad. You're either gearing or you're making money, and you're not doing both at the same time. Well, depending, you can, but it's more annoying than it is helpful. So I want to see more information about how they're going to change red scripts for crafters, or if they're going to change the way red scripts work for crafters, before I even think about them adding a new gear set. And how long do you think 3.1 will keep people occupied? It depends. 3.1 is an opportunity for a lot of people to come back. What usually happens in that case is people come back and then they say, well, now I'm back, I want to get into Savage. So you usually have a resurgence of a lot of statics. That being said, a lot of people actually get quite some enjoyment out of doing Void Arc, you know, once a week, or they do it like every day because they only have a couple of hours a day to play, and they do it every day till they get their gear. Then you have, you know, the people who are going to want to do maybe a Spirit Bond run in the Party Finder, or an Ishgard for the airship stuff every day because they want to get their materia ready, or they maybe want to look for an upgrade within the area. They want to go after the minion, they want to get some points. You're going to have people that are still getting together and practicing for Savage and whatnot. You're going to have people that are, you know, going and farming Alexander Normal now that there's no loot lockout. But you're also just going to have the people who log in, you know, maybe do a couple of things and log out. It's going to happen. There are going to be, you know, after 2 weeks, within even a week, people are going to be complaining, oh, the patch is already done, there's nothing for me, see you guys in 3.2. That being said, most of the casual player base probably going to enjoy the patch, especially if we're back on a 3 to 3.5 month cycle. Next question. Hey, Happy, first time poster but long time viewer. Keep up the amazing work. Here's some great loot on your first expedition. I'll get the minion, that means. My question, it's for Lords of Verminion. It's awesome. My question was prompted by the very end of last week's video where you mentioned that there was no medium in keeping DPS checks burden on the DPS only. I've always believed that to keep DPS checks on the DPS shoulders alone, that the best way to do that is to keep the other roles busy with something else. My best example I can think of for this is have a scenario where 2 tanks are busy on both sides of an arena fending off enemies and attacks while the DPS are focused on one thing. The tanks are constantly getting a debuff, however, and can't keep protecting everyone forever. All the while, the entire party is taking constant AoE damage, so the healers are constantly on heals. What are your thoughts about this scenario? Can you think of other scenarios that would cause something like this? So that is definitely an option, making it so there's so many targets that the tanks alone cannot handle it, or that the tanks are forced onto another target where DPS isn't as big of an issue, where maybe they have to intercept attacks. But the thing is, people will still somehow find a way to get the tank DPS in there. I can guarantee you that people are just too smart to not let the tanks do anything. The fight would literally have to be designed where the tanks are separated from the rest of the party pretty much. And I think that more mechanics, sort of like the quarantine, but with only one person, where maybe a DPS is separated and it's their sole responsibility to take down an enemy, honestly, you just send a warrior into those quarantines, and it's basically like having 2 DPS demolishing that thing. As for the healers being so busy that all they can do is heal, that is an easy way to make it so there's no check there. What usually happens with that is that one healer just learns exactly the amount of healing that's required. They learn how many GCDs they can handle alone, while the other healer DPSs. If anything, A3 Savage, the final phase, is a good example of something that forces healers to only heal, where it gives them a debuff that says, you cannot do damage. You do 99% less damage. There's no point in you dealing damage at this point. Literally adding that restriction that if a healer does this, it's not worth it because they've been debuffed. So having something where tanks are incapable of damage but are generating enmity normally, or having healers where they're incapable of damage but are doing enmity normally, those are probably your best bets. As for that, even then, that kind of ruins the idea of certain fights being more fun. For example, a good fight of Valithria Dreamwalker from World of Warcraft, where the healers were actually the DPS. Well, I guess that's how you can say it. The boss would take damage, and the goal of the healers was to heal the boss back to full health. Doing that required some little mini game where you got to go through rings to get stacks, and then you would have a healer that was focused on raid healing, and then healers that were focused on boss healing. And the DPS, all the while in the tanks, were busy trying to fend off other groups of enemies. Some of them exploded, some of them attacked really fast, some of them hit really hard, some of them had mechanics. Those are, you kind of lose the ability to have those kind of fun scenarios, but even then, that's a healer healing to DPS almost, if that makes sense. That's their job is to bring the HP of a target up as opposed to bringing it down. And more mechanics like that could definitely force healers into that healing aspect. I just hope that that doesn't stunt their creativity. This has prompted a lot more interesting mechanics for healers that, don't want to just stand there and heal. So it's really a split down the middle of what people prefer, and if you ask any given person at any given time, there's going to be a difference in opinion. So if they do want to do this, I think they literally need to restrict it, like, to the point where if you do it, it is suboptimal. And I don't see that happening without them literally just throwing a debuff on top of people that says, hey, you can't do damage. But we'll see. Next question. Hey, Happy. First time posting a question, so I have 1 gil. It's a lucky coin. Don't waste it. Good thing you told me, because I was about to toss that shit aside. Question for week 64 regarding the new Relic for 3.15. If we have a completed Zeta, we get a slight advantage. Will our Zeta get destroyed in the process? We don't know. Bottom line. I'm not even going to begin to guess, because we have no information on that whatsoever. My only hint, wait till 3.15, and we'll find out. Until then, that's all we know. I hope we don't, because then you could use the benefit to make multiple relics and skip the first step on all of them. And we all know that we want to make all the relics, right? No, we don't. Anyway, no way of knowing. We'll just have to wait and find out. Alright, next question. Oh, Mr. Happy, come sit and have a few mind potions for your solo battle with the Chrysalis. I'm gonna beat it. I just need some mind potions. So kind of a small rant, but I recently had to drop out of college to get a job to save my mom's house from being foreclosed on. Work 10 hours a day, and usually I have time to run my expert in PvP roulette during the week if I'm lucky. Change my main gerb from Bard to Dark. I'm also one of the lead members of FC and have to help members with old content as well as gather, craft, airships of gardening, and do weekly runs. Lately I've been snapping at my friends and party members, or just ignoring them. I feel stressed. Don't know what I should do because I've kind of pissed a few people off. Used to be really nice and not so selfishly angry. Mind giving some advice on how to handle things? Dude, sounds simple. You gotta pass some leadership responsibilities to other people. Being a leader and being responsible for every single thing that happens in free companies and link shells is not the same thing. You can still be a leader without being solely responsible for every single thing. And that's what it sounds like you need to do. It sounds like you need to find people that are motivated to build the community within the free companies and the link shells and give them certain responsibilities, or see which responsibilities they're willing to take on. If you're doing that, if I had to drop out of college, first of all, I'm going to college, I know people, I have friends there, to get a job to save my mom's house, obviously a high stress situation, because it's literally the livelihood of a family member and someone who took care of you your entire life. So by the way, kudos to you for doing that, because that's a very difficult thing to be forced to do, especially while you're in the middle of getting an education to get a job. To leave that and do something for your family like that is massive, and big props to you. 10 hours a day, that's also massive. 2 hours more than what's required, and you don't say that you have days off. So I'm just going to assume you work Saturday, Sunday as well. And again, that's massive. So again, you're doing good things for yourself. You're looking out for your real life self before your in-game self. Not because not because you want to, but because you have to. You have to do this, or the result is this. You need to pass responsibilities. You're doing the right thing in real life. Just explain it to them in game. Explain it that you need people to take over, have a meeting of some sort in like TeamSpeak or Mumble, apologize for your actions, and work it out with them. Take a day, don't do your expert, don't do your PvP roulette, do that instead, and it should probably take a pretty big load off your back. All right, next question. Good, whatever time of day it is to you. It's like 7:30 or something right now. I have a few questions, 2 short and 1 long. If every Primal 2.0 has an element, examples, Shiva's Ice, what is King Mogomog's element, and why don't we have a Mount Barding? King Mogomog is supposed to be the Primal that makes you question how all Primals work, because he doesn't have an element. And I think that's the only reason they all have an element is because they just happen to be the original 6, and like those original 6 all had an element tied. Also, King Mogomog, if I had to label one, probably be light. 2, why are there no upgraded Ramu weapons? Funny story about those weapons. So, oh wait, no, that's the accessories. I don't know. There's no good answer for that. There just isn't. They should, for glamour. That would be nice. Oh well. I don't know if the actual statistics of how many people have cleared A4 Savage, but as of Tuesday, my server has 1 group that I know of that is cleared. And that is even cleared A3 Savage to begin work on A4 Savage. Okay, it's not even beaten A4 Savage, only just beaten A3. And we suppose that only 2% of the game's population, that's pretty generous, have beaten Floor 4 by 3.2. That will only leave 2% able to go to the next raid tier. I don't think they're going to require A4 Savage to go into A5 Savage. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're just going to make you beat Floor 8, for example, like on normal. Because this didn't make sense back in Coil either. It only made sense because of the story, where you would have to beat the previous one to go to the next one. That's the only reason why it made any sense to me. However, Alexander Savage has no story tied to it. So to require you to beat this boss that is on a whole nother level from the other 3 bosses, and even the 3rd boss is on a whole nother level than the first 2, all you're doing is pissing off your middle core raid section, because they didn't beat 3 and 4, so now they can't even do the middle core content of 5 and 6. I don't think they'll do that. I'll just put that right there. I don't think they'll require you to beat A4 Savage to get into A5 Savage. I only think they'll require you to beat Floor 8, if there only ends up being 4 floors again, which I think there will be. By the way, the population of the game is not 6 million. I know that's just a figure that you have here, but the counts made and active subscribers, the amount of people at 60, nowhere close to 6 million. What are your opinions, thoughts on adjusting Savage Alexander? Leave it. If anything, leave what you did with A1 through 4, take what you learned, and apply it to 5 and on. That's all I gotta say. So hopefully they learned a lot, and hopefully they don't make me spend 8 weeks doing progression next time. I like World First Progression, and it's cool that it was extended, but some of us have lives, and after 5 weeks, when people have to start going on vacation, going back to school, it got pretty ridiculous. So maybe 2 or 3 weeks for progression, like turn 9 was. That was good. That was a good amount of time. I liked it. Next question. Hi, Mr. Happy. Thanks for answering my question last week. No problem. I was wondering if you think mat fights, and for those of you who didn't play Final Fantasy XI, that's where you fight an opponent that has the same job as you, and everyone at least has to do it once. You have the choice to do it as many times as possible for every different job in the game. For Final Fantasy XI would be a good idea for 14. Would it reduce the headache of Dungeon Finder for endgame content? I don't think so. It depends, because here's the thing. They make it too easy, doesn't teach you anything. They make it too hard, people complain, and they nerf it. Like, if they could make it just hard enough to the point where you actually need to know how to play your job to do it, and it may beat you a few times, but by learning the job properly, you get past it, okay, then yeah, I'm okay with that, as long as they don't nerf it eventually, because nerfing it will then destroy the entire point of it, which is a problem, because people want to be 60 and they want to not be locked behind the content. This kind of goes back to the thing. If that was your attunement, I'd be all for it. I don't know if it would necessarily reduce the headache. Sometimes people just don't take the duty finder seriously, even if they are half decent players. So I don't know if it would really do all too much. Also, DPS can practice for raids by going and doing their rotations on training dummies. Should healers and tanks have an option to practice their role? It's a pretty interesting question. While they can do dungeons, I don't feel the difficulty of dungeon runs help with preparing for raids. I guess it depends on how you do your dungeon runs. If you try to push your dungeon runs to the maximum every single time, it at least teaches you the bare minimums of using cooldowns. Believe it or not, that is a struggle with some duty finder groups. Even just pressing the button, I have Sentinel, boom, or using it at an appropriate time. Not just being like, oh, well, we just started the fight, I'm going to use Sentinel. Instead of, oh, okay, the boss uses this ability in the first 10 seconds of the fight, I better have Sentinel up for it. A good example of that. It would be nice if they had something to help them, but a lot of it comes down to you swing your weapon and you pop cooldowns when you need to. Obviously, when you're going into maximum efficiency and maximum DPS, it's more complicated than that, but I don't think that that's something that they can necessarily learn by having some sort of specially designed AI hit them. Maybe they could. Maybe if you just had an AI, it's like, try to time the attack and use your cooldown just before it comes up. He does this attack every 4 seconds, but when it's spelled out to you like that, it's not the same as going into a fight and looking, okay, how many auto attacks between this? You know, if I do it between this auto and this auto, I block this many attacks. There's a whole other level that goes into it, and it'd be pretty rough to teach it because that's something you have to learn on an individual fight. But maybe just introducing the idea to the players may be a good idea. And honestly, that whole cooldown thing goes with the healers as well. How to handle healing multiple people when it's more beneficial to single target heal a few people versus just spamming AoEs and whatnot. That's something that could definitely benefit a few people if they do it right. And I think they could. I think this is doable. Probably won't have lasting effects, but it's doable. Next question. Sup, Happy? With Final Fantasy XI essentially coming to an end on the 10th, what do you think will be done with their development team? So, let me start by saying, Final Fantasy XI, I will play it on the phone. See, it's going to be interesting. A lot of people seem to think they're going to take 11's development team and add it to Final Fantasy XIV's development team. I don't think that works. I don't think that's something you can just do. Second of all, even though there's going to be no more major content patches, they are still going to have a group, you know, doing hot fixes and bug fixes and balancing adjustments and whatnot. There's just not going to be any other major content. So they probably still going to retain some people working on Final Fantasy XI. And even then, I don't think we're ever going to have that. I don't think they're just going to take the old development team for 11 and put it in 14. I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, that's kind of how 1.0 happened. They just took Tanaka, who had done so good with 11, said, make this game, make it kind of like modern MMOs, but make it nothing like World of Warcraft and nothing like Final Fantasy 11 at the same time. So he reused some assets from 11, he reused some ideas from 11, and then he just made them all function differently, and they were so different, they were so off the wall, and it was an unoptimized game, and it was a disaster. Not saying that they would just integrate these people and it would be a disaster. I'm just saying I don't know if that's the best thing to do with the resources. If they can train them properly, it may be exactly the thing 14 needs to keep on those 3-month schedules. And who knows, maybe that was part of the reason why they shut it down. Maybe it wasn't because it wasn't making any money. Maybe it was because it was making money, but it wasn't making as much money as 14 was at the time. So they didn't want to have to put as many people developing active content towards it when they could redistribute those people to Final Fantasy 14. We have no idea, unfortunately, is the ultimate answer to your question. There's a lot of ideas floating around, and I'm sure we'll get an official word on it at some point from Square Enix. Next question. Morning, Mr. Happy. Or evening. It's morning when you're watching. Yeah, sure. I have an important question that people tend to overlook. When and how would they be able to fix the Duty Finder wait times? To be more in depth, I main Dragoon, but it took ages before I'm in a dungeon. Why is this what makes tanks and healers so flippin' important over DPS? We do the damage. My thought would be for them to make each role, no matter what class job, is as important game-wise, not user-wise in the game. Alright. The answer to your question is very, very simple. People don't like playing tank and healer. Doesn't matter how important they are, doesn't matter how integral they are. What matters is people don't like it. Some people can't handle the pressure of being the tank. Some people can't handle the pressure of being a healer. Some people don't like being responsible for keeping people alive. Some people just simply don't enjoy healing people or not doing a big amount of damage. It's why Warrior has kind of revitalized the tank role. A lot of people who play DPS have no issue going Warrior because they still, while they have those responsibilities, they still feel enough like a DPS. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with importance. It's literally people just don't like playing those roles. And it's always like that. It's a psychological thing. That also being the fact that there's only 3 tanks and 3 healers in the game, so there's not as many different sort of what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say the word fantasies. There's less variety in tank and healer than there is in DPS. You know, you have the long lance wielder, you have the puncher. I was almost about to say fister. You have the puncher, you have the ninja, you know, you have the far east look, you have the big burst damage black mage, you have the high mobility summoner with their dots, you have the bard who uses a bow and sings songs, you have the machinist who's got the turrets. There's so many different archetypes there within the same role that it's not as interesting. So even if they added more tanks, more healers, most of the time it's just going to be the same tanks changing to a different tank as their main. So I don't think that, I'm short of doing something with the algorithm, I don't see a way to just flat out say, yeah, no, people like tanks just as much now. People like healers just as much now. Yeah, because guess what? Their role is already really friggin' important. DPS's role, also, for most people, because they like to do dungeons fast, really important. So, don't know if there's any quick answer to this question. Next question. A. Just so you know, in the future, it's A-Y-Y-Y. That's A. First time asker, so here I have some ancient coins. What is this, Final Fantasy 11 Ancient Beast coins? Go use those from Limbus. What's your opinion on Savage exclusive fights? Like, there will be an 1 to 12 normal and 1 to 13 Savage with one unique boss. Okay, so the reason why that will never happen in this game, as much as I like it, because Algalon is one of my favorite World of Warcraft bosses. Ulduar is one of my favorite raids ever made. It will never happen because there needs to be a story explanation for it. And if there's any story, it needs a normal mode. So if anything, it would be a Savage exclusive boss for a short time before a normal mode gets released of it. And then it loses its luster. That's probably why it'll never happen. Story. Next question. Good afternoon, Mr. Happy. I have one question for this week. Do you think they will ever add sprinting from mounts? Use your mighty influence to make it happen. First of all, I have no influence. I can only speak with the community team, and the community team is not the development team. Second of all, probably not. Why? There's no reason for it. We can get around as easy as it is now. Many teleports, such movement, much success. In all seriousness, there's really no reason for mounts to be able to sprint, other than the fact that it looks cool, which, you know, may prompt it to happen at some point. Like, people say, so I can get to my hunts faster. It's like, so can everyone else. So, like, if you were taking 5 minutes to get to a hunt and it was dead, now you're going to take 3 minutes to get there, but everyone was getting there faster anyway, so it's already pulled and dead anyway. So, maybe one day, just for coolness, but functionally, don't see it happening. Alright, so we got another long question, so I took some time to read ahead of it, and I actually really like this question, because this is one that I have an answer people are not going to like for. TLDR, should Black Mage keep standing in AoEs and let the healers keep them alive just to get the most damage output of Enochian and reducing the risk of dropping it? Thank you and have a great day. In top-end raid groups, yes. And I know people hate hearing me say that. If you watch any sort of higher-tier raid group, unless it won't be a big deal, a lot of the times Black Mages will stand in AoEs. This was normal back in the day too. But it has to be controlled. Don't just be like, oh, well, fuck you. And especially in the Duty Finder, don't do it. Because if you do it in the Duty Finder, unless you know the healers, you cannot say, you guys didn't heal me. Because in the Duty Finder, everyone's assuming that you'll at least attempt to dodge the attack. I've started doing that a little bit less on my Ninja, where I'll just use like Shade Shift to take less damage. Like, I can second wind, I'll be okay. But in, like, if you're trying to squeeze out DPS, like, you're like, we keep wiping at 1%. We keep wiping at 1 fucking percent. What can we do? Look at your Black Mage and be like, how much are you moving in this fight? And they say, I'm moving here, 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 and here. All right, don't move there, don't move there, and don't move there. All right, we will heal you through it. We're good to go. That is an acceptable thing to do. It takes some practice, and it takes a good amount of communication. Don't just do it without communicating. But yes, it is something that happens quite often, and it is something that groups do to ensure they can meet DPS checks to progress. Next question. Dear Mr. Happy, thank you for your interest in registering for a spot in one of our Vault Techs of the Art underground fallout shelters. In order to make sure you allocated a spot in the correct vault, please answer the following question. Recently added an extra retainer to my account. Will that extra retainer be for a character, or will all characters on the account gain an extra retainer? You know, I have extra retainers, and I don't know the answer to that question. If you didn't have to select a character, it will be on all of them. I think it's on all of them. I'm almost positive it's on every single character, because I'm pretty sure that's why it's $2 extra per month and not like $1. If it was only on one character, it was $2 extra a month, it'd be pretty strange, considering that the difference between having 8 characters and having 40 characters for your account is $2. So $2 seems to be, I think that's on every single one. Also, you have a spoiler here. Sorry, your application was rejected, as Vault Tech has no plans to build vaults in Eorzea or Hydaelyn for that matter. You ruined my dreams. Now they will only be memes. Alright, so we have another pretty long question here, and this one is covering time-gated content. And basically, the person's losing their luster or losing their desire to play Final Fantasy XIV. Mainly because it feels like with casual play, it will take them forever to get something done. They mention they want to get PvP sets, mounts, tank mounts, gold saucer vanity gear, beast tribe minions, mounts. Did I say mounts like 3 times? No, it's a tank mounts, okay. Dungeon minions, rank 20 chocobo, a whole host of other really cool things that are in the game. Each one of those things could take months of casual playing with almost no mid-term reward to ease the grind. Getting to 50 with an alt class was the most fun thing in the game, but getting to 60 is literally the opposite of fun. So many times I get excited for a new feature only to hate the way they implement it. So I think that this is a fair criticism and one that you should honestly bring to the official forums, as much as that is probably going to be completely useless when it comes to the other people that are going to comment on it. Because then people will either say, stop being a casual, not everything needs to be accessed by everyone. And I do agree to some point that, you know, while you want to access all those things, it's reasonable for an MMO to expect you to spend time playing it. I mean, that's how they earn their money, you know what I mean? But as for these specific things that you mention, first of all, 50 to 60 is being made easier. I don't know how much easier, but I mean, they're adding EXP to the level 50 dungeons, and they're making the trek from 51 to 60 a little bit less trouble. They're adding the new Beast Tribe quests, which will level dynamically with you. I just need to see if they actually make the challenge log update dynamically with you, because right now for Disciples of War and Magic, it sucks, the challenge log, after you hit level 51. That being said, I can understand where your issues are. I don't know what kind of time investment we're talking about that you usually have. But that being said, they are literally adding a lot of systems into the game. They're increasing PvP EXP. Tank mounts are a thing. Like, if you want tank mounts, you're probably going to have to spam Alexander Normal. And now that there is no loot lockout on Alexander Normal, maybe a little bit easier. Gold Saucer Vanity Gear, challenge logs with the Gold Saucer, Jumbo Cackpots being buffed. They're adding Lords of Verminion, another new way for you to earn that, the MGP. Beast Tribe minions and mounts. Again, the new Beast Tribe coming out, as you can work that in with leveling. Rank 20 Chocobo, I got nothing there. That takes a really long time. Dungeon minions are having their drop rates buffed. I think basically what you're saying is you were waiting for 3.1, because 2.1 was the same way. 2.0 progress was slow and there wasn't a whole lot of it. 3.0 was the same deal, and it's something I hope doesn't happen again for 4.0. But with these changes, with these buffs, it sounds like you are going to enjoy a lot more of your time in 3.1 than you did in 3.0. And that's reasonable. I expect that same when 3.2 comes out, you may need to take a break, and then, or you can continue working on these things they've already buffed, and they'll probably buff other things, and 3.3 you'll really enjoy again. It just sounds like the odd-numbered patches are better suited for your needs. There's nothing wrong with that. That's your playstyle, that's how you want to spend your money, and that's what you want to do. So, I say, talk to me again after 3.1, give 3.1 a couple of weeks, come back to the show, give us the update, and then we'll talk about this again. Next question. Hey, Happy, long-time viewer, first-time asker. I have an SO bonus. May all your rolls be 99. Yes, need the minions to drop. My question for week 64 is more of a theory about 3.1 story. To put it simply, do you think there are multiple Warriors of Light? Looking at the story section of the trailer of 3.1, there's a Paladin who's in black armor who also happens to be a big buff bro. I think it'd be interesting to see multiple Warriors of Darkness, but then again, it's just a slight theory. So you asked me if there are multiple Warriors of Light, but then you mentioned the Warrior of Darkness. So the Warrior of Darkness is literally the Warrior of Darkness. He is a warrior. He is Derplander. You see him break Ravana's shield. There are other companions that he has. If you remember the line from the end of 3.0, it's time for you and yours to join the fray. He has a party, just like we're always bringing a party of people together. So that Rogadin is almost definitely a member of the Warrior of Darkness's posse. We've also seen some pictures with a Bard of Darkness, if you look at some of the official promo. So I expect that a lot of the original jobs are going to be represented via the Warriors of Darkness, and I don't know that they're all Warriors of Darkness. I think just one of them is, and then he's got a band of people that work with him. And ours is going to be the same way. You're still going to be the Warrior of Light, and all the people with you are people that help you complete your goals, just like it's always been. They're just other adventurers. It's probably the same deal, on the other side of the fence. Next question. Hey, Haps, long-time watcher, first-time asker. So here's some philosophy tomestones. Nah, never mind. Here's some extra parts. Here's my question. I don't know if you read the thread on Reddit this week about creating a better pug community. Oh, I read it. Get it? Ha! Anyway, OP pointed out that JP servers' clear rate in the Party Finder groups, no, their clear rates in everything, are higher than NAEU servers combined. Talk about savage clearance. Yeah, it's been that way for a while. They have different tiers of Party Finder groups, and depending where you are in the raid, you join one of those. They have teaching macros with the whole fight explained. Do you think we're at a point of no return to apply this to our servers? I don't even think it's a matter of point of no return. It's the JP culture is a like-minded culture. North America is a melting pot of cultures. Europe, on top of that, again, melting pot of cultures because you have all the different countries. And between egos, between, between people just having different communication barriers, between people, like there's so many things dividing them. I don't think it matters if that's if that's somebody's mindset or not. It doesn't change the fact that America now is a, you know, I want it now, kind of like the we wants conversation we were having last week, or that we mentioned again earlier. You know, it's like the I want it now, and I, you know, either A, don't have the time, or B, don't want to put in the effort to do it. A lot of that is just part of our culture now, and it sucks. I don't think it matters what game you play. This thing that the Japanese party finder groups do, I don't think it'll ever work on the North American and EU servers, just because of the way that we as people are in these other cultures. I wish it would work, because it would be amazing to have such an organized party finder like that, where people are completely clear about the way things work. But good luck getting people to actually participate in it, learn the ways of it, and then incorporate it. It's a lot of effort from a lot of people, and I don't see them making said effort. That being said, if we do start making the effort, I will join the fray, and I will be joining clear groups to help people get the clears that they need, instead of joining a clear group where some people haven't seen the fight at all, some people have seen part of the fight, and and then one or two people have beaten the fight thinking it was a farm party, because that's just how the party finder ends up working right about now. Next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. I just have a quick question about the materia changes in 3.2. I know you've made a video, but I believe there's something you didn't touch on that I like your opinion of. I'm a pentamelded warrior with Vit to strength accessories. When the materia changes roll around, will I lose those melds I spent millions on? So what they'll probably do is, if you have melds that are not, you know, compatible anymore, they'll probably give you cracked materia. I don't think that's 100%, you know, possible, because they did kind of remove, then I'm pretty sure they removed cracked materia at this point for people who didn't use it back when they transitioned from 1.0 to 2.0, but that is a possibility. The other thing is that it just tells you that maybe they just don't make the changes to old gear, but the new gear is strong enough to the point where that old gear doesn't matter. Like, you have to think about that. They're going to be raising the item level. You know, they're going to be making the new crafted accessories more powerful. You're going to be able to meld things onto raid tier gear. Odds are that even if they don't do anything to remove your melds, those pieces just won't be worth anything anymore, because you'll need to be moving on up to the next tier of accessories, whatever that may be. There's a lot of ways it could go down, and I've been thinking about it a lot, and the crack materia change is probably the easiest way of not pissing people off who have already made those things and are, you know, looking to get a return on investment. That being said, you invested on something that was good for that patch, knowing that a later patch was going to come out and that those melds were not going to be worthwhile anymore. So I realistically don't think they'll do that. I think they'll just be like, the new gear is stronger, your old melds, sorry, that's just how the game works, and move on. Alright guys, so we have an entire page of questions left, but unfortunately I only have the time to cover two more. I've already picked which two that I'm going to be asking, so thank you everyone for asking your questions this week. If your question does not get answered, just try to consider, there's a lot of reasons why I may not answer a question. A lot of it may be I've covered it in previous weeks. You know, it's something that I've covered repeatedly, like at least once every few episodes for quite some time, or it could just be that I ran out of time because some of the questions are too long. And to those of you asking really long questions on the first 2 pages, I get really into those topics of discussion. What I may start doing overall is literally just chopping out the super long questions and making a more vlog related entire video on just that one question. So keep that in mind for future episodes. I was considering that as I was seeing how many questions I'm going to miss this week, so just wanted to cover that real quick. We got 2 questions left to answer, so let's get to it. Week 64 questions. 1. Do you think Geralt will be making our new relics? I think he'll probably have something to do with it. I don't know if he'll outright make it, but I have a feeling he's gonna be involved, like almost definitely. And 2, I know it's a catch-up reason, but wouldn't you like to have seen our relics continue and keep growing after all the work we put in? Something for those of us that were here from the very beginning. I sometimes think they do not care about those who have supported them from the beginning. They could have made 2 different versions if they wanted. Well, if you did finish the old one, it is giving you an advantage. So they are showing that they care about you if you worked on it since the beginning. And it would be a whole heaping mess of trouble if they made 2 separate relic quest lines that they needed to maintain and upgrade throughout the patches. That's going to push development time back even more than it already got pushed back for 3.1, and this isn't even coming until 3.15. So just keep that in mind. They gave me what I wanted. My Zeta's going to let me skip the first step, and that's all I really need from it. For me, that's enough of a continuation to have no complaints. So no, I'm perfectly okay with it. If I want the old one's looks, I can always glamour it, and it's somehow helping me with the next one as well. So I'm all good. Alright, so I read this question ahead of time, and holy moly am I about to tear in to some scholars right now. And by some scholars, I mean this one. Hello, Mr. Happy. I'll try to keep it short, but I have an issue that kind of gets repeated. At the same time, seems a little different that involves rating, comps, people, and stuff. If anything, I need a shoulder to cry on. I'll bold the most important points. I am a warrior main that the designated healer for me is our scholar. We have been struggling to get past A2 Savage for a few weeks now, sometimes not even clearing A1 Savage, despite allegedly everyone knowing their role. When we were at the end of our rating and haven't cleared, the scholar openly blames me for the reasons we are not passing because I am a warrior. Holy shit. I could stop right there and have a million words. I am a pain in the butt to heal and should reconsider going Dark Knight because warriors shouldn't tank. I've tried to talk things out, yet despite not having a tanking class of a comparable level, never looking at tanking guides that I have provided for him, and attempted to explain why I prioritize strength, crit, and debt over vitality, parry, and block, he cuts me off, calls me an idiot. He says I don't understand healing, despite having a white mage at 60, and that I should just shut my mouth and do as he says because, don't know why that's bolded, when I fail to do as he says, he has less DPS, he has less stacks, healing, and I mess up his rotation. Holy shit, can I not point out the number of things that were wrong with that? Warriors, you should have bolded warriors shouldn't tank. Oh my god. Okay, I am going to scroll down and read the rest of it. This is a question that deserves to have the whole thing read. It has caused me to do just a 1-2-3 combos warrior in defiance the whole time, and he doesn't complain. But we are starting to not hit our already tight DPS checks, and when I do go into deliverance to pump out more damage, fell cleave, decimate, or help with damage while maintaining aggro, he flips out and yells at me. The rest of the raid sits by idly unless the rant continue. I'm about ready to leave my server on Siren, or at least find a more capable group. In fact, I'm starting to see why people leave my free company and end game raiding free company. I brought it up as a raid leader and they say I'm fine, just ignore it. But it's hard to ignore when the scholar's loudly complaining the whole time and sometimes resorted to not healing until I do as he says. He's a good scholar, but he always says my damage as a scholar is more meaningful than yours as a warrior. I'm viewing this group as toxic. It's hurting my rating. I think I just answered my question. So, thoughts? Holy shit. Don't leave that group. Boot that fucking scholar. Okay, so here's the thing. The scholar is trying to DPS, so he's not a healer should only heal scholar. He's a my DPS is more important than yours. First of all, warriors shouldn't tank. Are you frigging kidding me? Why am I censoring myself now? Warriors are like the best of the three tanks right now. Their mitigation is good. They have the added healing. They don't take more damage while in deliverance. They don't have much HP and they don't get healed for as much. I can't even. Storm's Path is so good. Storm's Eye is so good. The fact that he was yelling at you for using Eye and Path is ridiculous. Yelling at you for using Fell Cleave and Decimate. Saying his damage is more important than your damage. Has he not seen a warrior rip shit apart? Oh my god. Okay, and the fact that he says you don't understand healing. If he's saying warriors shouldn't be tanks, I'm going to be straight up honest. That's bullshit. That is an issue with the healer and not an issue with you. You're doing the right thing. You're itemizing correctly. You're playing your job the way it's meant to be played, and someone's trying to keep it from being done because he thinks he's more important to you. He also sounds like a toxic teammate who doesn't deserve to be in a savage static. Holy shit. This got me so heated just reading it. I can't even control myself. You should probably, if not leave that group, boot that scholar. Because this guy has no idea. Now, okay, let's be fair. Maybe you are doing things that are suboptimal and it is getting you killed. That is a possibility. I shouldn't rule that out. Warriors shouldn't tank. I can't get over it. Like, that makes me think you're doing the right thing. And I have to ask you, when you go into deliverance, are you coordinating cooldowns? Are you coordinating with the healers when you are supposed to go into deliverance? Those are important things to a raid group. That needs to be communicated. You can't just be like, well, I was deliverance and I died. You need to communicate, I will be deliverance from this point to this point, for this long in this phase. If I'm doing good, I can get out an extra GCD maybe. That's all a super important point about communication. But the fact that if your scholar really did say, and it's not just an exaggeration, if he really said warriors shouldn't be tanks, they are a pain in the butt to heal, and that you need to reconsider your main, that leads me to believe you are probably doing mostly the correct thing, and this guy has no idea what he's talking about. I'd say you did answer your question right there at the very end. If you're not going to leave that server and you're not going to leave that free company, that scholar does not belong in a raid group. It's toxic to the environment. He doesn't work well with others. And to be honest, it's bullshit. Oh man, that can make a video on that. Holy shit. All right, we got to move on from that. So thank you for your questions, everyone, this week. Thank you again, and be sure to come by that Steam Machine demo. Be sure to check those videos out today as well. If I remember, which I never do, I'll probably put it in an annotation, or I'll put it in the description, or where's the thing? See that little eye right here? Yeah, that usually has like fan funding and like other playlists. If it's ever there, that's usually what's there. So you can check that. Maybe the Alienware videos will be there if I remember to do it. But holy moly. I need a glass of water after that. So thank you everyone for coming by. Be sure to ask your questions for next week in the comment section, not in the comment section of the video below. I almost said that. In the description of the video is a link to the Dream Network forums, where you can ask your questions. Everybody, feed this guy your energy. Feed him your energy now. Raise your hands up. He needs it. I will see you all next week for the next episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. And until then, take care.